Hello and welcome to the Santee Church of Christ Bible Study Review, where we look over the last class and just kind of encapsulate what we studied. So if you missed the class, you can stay caught up, and it is also a way to just have a quick review of each lesson that we have. We are in the book of Deuteronomy, and we are finishing out the book. And as we end the book, it is also the end of, we'll find that it is the end of Moses' life and this saga that he has been on for the last 40 years with this nation Israel, wandering through the desert. And so he wants to leave them with, he wants to have the surety that they're going to be obedient to God. And God is making sure that this happens by redispensing the laws that he gave them throughout that 40-year period through the Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers in those books. And he's trying to make sure that they have a clear understanding of what God wants from them and what his promises are to them when they do these things that he is dictating to them. So we finished out chapter 30. Now, the week before, we discussed the concept of the circumcision of the heart, which was the mark of a covenant. And it's more of God trying to instill a character into the person rather than just him looking for somebody to feel obedient under compulsory needs. And it's not a case where a person just obeys to get something, but somebody who truly loves God and seeks to be more like him. So in verse 11 through 14, I'll read that very briefly. It says, "For the command which I am commanding you today is not too wonderful for you, nor is it too far off." And that kind of, I'm not going to read the rest of the verses, but that kind of encapsulates the rest of those verses. God is saying through Moses, look, this is not too difficult of a thing for you to understand and to do. And again, this is just a subclause to will be a witness against them if they fall away. Paul also brings it up in Romans, and we've talked about that as well, that in the New Testament, when the Christ actually comes, it is not something that is so far-reaching that a person cannot understand it. And this is the point that God is making, is that this is something that you can understand. He's making it understandable so that we can know him better and be more like him. So in the following verses 15 through 20 in chapter 30, the question that we had was, what were the choices before the people, and what would the outcome be of those choices? And verse 15 says, "Behold, I have set before you today life and good, and death and evil." And again, I'm not going to finish all those verses. If you haven't read them, I would suggest you read them. But it's basically that. Those are the choices. If you choose good and evil, if you choose good and life, then you will gain life. God will bless you. And this was this covenant for them. Physical blessing for choosing God. And if you go if you go running after other gods, it will mean certain death for you, and not necessarily physical quick death, but a national death, the death of having prosperity, the death of having security, and all of these things that God promised them should they obey him. And that was really the gist of what we talked about. It's not, and it wasn't just simple, like I say over and over, it isn't just simple obedience that God was looking for from them. It was for them to trust him. And this is something we kind of go over every week. God was simply looking for them to look for him. So that brings us to chapter 31 as we're closing out this book. There's only a few more chapters. And the questions were, what does Moses call the people to do? And what does Moses call Joshua to do? And what does Moses tell them so they can do those things? So we see Moses here essentially passing the authoritative rule. In other words, who are you going to look to? They've been looking to Moses for all of these years. These 40 years, they've been looking to him. So who are they going to look to? And he's bringing up Joshua so they understand that Joshua will be their next leader. I'm going to go ahead and read that. It says, Moses went out and spoke these words to Israel, and he said to them, I'm 120 years old. I'm not able anymore to go out or come in. And Jehovah said to me, you shall not cross over this Jordan. So God told Moses, you're not going to this promised land. Jehovah your God, and this is where Moses is going to put the emphasis. Listen to how many times he talks about Jehovah being the guy they need to rely on. Jehovah your God will cross over before you. He shall destroy these nations from before you, and you shall possess them. Joshua is the one who shall cross over before you, and as Jehovah has spoken. And Jehovah shall do to them as he has done to Sihon and Og, kings of the Amorites, and to their land which he destroyed before them. And Jehovah shall give them up before your face, and you shall do to them according to all the commands which I have commanded you. Be strong and brave, do not fear them. For Jehovah your God is he who is going with you. He shall not fail you nor forsake you. These are final arguments for them to believe in God. That's where their trust needs to be. And Moses called for Joshua and said to him before the eyes of Israel, be strong and brave, to give it to them, and you shall cause them to inherit it. For you shall go in, let me finish that. For you shall go in with this people to the land which Jehovah has sworn to their fathers to give it to them, and you shall cause them to inherit it. So he's turning over the reins, if you will, to Joshua as far as who are they going to look to when it comes to decision making, as far as answers from God. They're not going to look to him for answers. They're looking to God, but he's the guy they're going to go to get those answers, along with the priests and that sort of thing. Jehovah is he who is going before you. He himself shall be with you. He shall not fail you nor forsake you. Do not fear or be afraid. So we see these closing statements coming out. And Moses is getting ready to leave, and we see that coming up right here, and he's really trying to instill a sense of courage into their hearts as well as faith in God. And one of the things I did bring up is he says, I'm not able anymore to go out and to come in. And 34:7, when he actually dies, says that he was very healthy when he died. He wasn't feeble or anything. And so we have to reconcile what that means. And I think just what that means is he's saying, I have to obey God, and God's telling me I can't go over there. And he wasn't saying that he was ill or anything like that. So that was what we covered. And of course, the class was much longer, and we did talk a lot more about a lot more things. And we'd love to have you. We are the Church of Christ in Santee, and we meet on Sunday morning for class at 9 o'clock. Our worship services at 10, and we have another class at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. You're welcome to come. Thank you for listening. May God bless you.